or not to stream? That was the question. The answer to which should be clear, hopefully, unless I've done something quite wrong, which is likely. So I shall check. I'm thinking everything's going okay, but it has been a couple weeks since I did the reading streams and everything is going wrong. Okay. I think we're good. Sure. We'll just go with that. All right. Da-da-dum, ba-dum-ba-dum. So we are done with Poe, and I already forgot the reason why I did that. I'm supposed to watch a movie, but I haven't had time. At some point that shall happen, but now we are on to Shakespeare. Disclaimers. I am familiar with Shakespeare. I have background in Shakespeare. I am more an enthusiast than any sort of knowledgeable. I could potentially get some points on trivia night, but I would not be a secret weapon. So, yes, we shall just go ahead and start. And I shall make my own analyses, as well as I have my trusty, not so dusty book that also has its own analyses, but even in going over the first one, I have already come into slight friendly conflict with it. So we shall see how that goes. Let me get this up. Bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum. La-da-dum. So, the Sonnets of Shakespeare. So the first 17 apparently I did not realize, but in looking them up, they are called the procreation sonnets. Not necessarily the act of, but more like heirs and passing on one's, um, uh, well, beauty and youth and having that be their legacy sort of situation. I mean, it could come in fluffy ways, and we shall see. So, also, I apologize for any reading that isn't quite pleasing to the ear. I shall try my hardest. Anyway, we shall begin. Sonnets. Number 1. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die, but as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedst thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due, by the grave and thee. So, I guess I'm not sure quite where to start, like line by line or all over, because basically, talking about you should have heirs to pass on what, not necessarily what the world has given you, but putting into the world, kind of, yeah, like putting into the world what instead of simply taking. And I started right from here, from fairest creatures we desire increase. And my interpretation of that was from women we desire babies, basically. Because that's kind of old school. Fairest creatures, usually women, we desire increase, making the babies. Not necessarily the physical act, the genealogical, but in reading my trusty dusty book, creatures, all living things, not just animals. We desire increase, we wish for offspring. We increase our desire. So yes, which put me onto a philosophical tangent because from fairest creatures we desire increase, if it was also animals, also plants, whatever, going into it, we as a species have a degree of consciousness that I would say in some respects, that's not the right word, not goes against, but can overpower that biological instinct, which anything else, it's basically live, produce, die, live, produce, die. But we have that sort of choice factor in there. So I guess my interpretation would, and especially since it is a lot more, I don't know. And again, I could understand Shakespeare differently once I actually read more of it. He's more of a human based. Um, in my own interpretation from past experience. So that would be my own thought. And again, with this, when the interpretation is not coming from the author itself, it is based in opinion and perspective. So I'm not going to necessarily fully accept that. I'm not going to take my own interpretation as I can make mistakes, obviously. But is it a mistake if it creates or brings forth an idea that then goes somewhere else? So anyway, we shall continue. That thereby beauty's rose might never die. So the beauty passes on, goes in, as the reaper should by time decease. Oh, I should get trusty dusty book. But as the reaper should by time decease, kill, his tender heir might bear his memory. So the child bears the memory. Riper, ripening, growing older, tender, as opposed to riper, bear, carry on. Tender churl, that's the one that I was going to look for. Youthful miser. So, yes, I do believe that the ending, feeds thy light's flame with substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies. So instead of creating the babies, to put it lightly, deciding instead to not. Yes. Thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel, which is also against your own self because it's not passing anything on of yourself. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, you are decorating the earth with yourself, and only herald to the gaudy spring. Within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by thy grave. So yeah, basically, again, taking and not giving. Both by death own willfulness, what belongs to the world. Yeah. And if you really wanted to get into modern interpretation of that, but we won't. So we'll just move on to number 2. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say, within thine own deep sunken eyes, were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count, and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelst it cold. When 40 winters, 40 being very old at the time, apparently, shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches, wrinkles in thy beauty's field. I love that imagery. Thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. So the beauty gone. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where does it... So yes, what was the point of it all? Where all the treasure of thy lusty days? Lusty does not necessarily mean that respect. It could be ambition, all of that. To say within thine own deep sunken eyes, as the eyes go in, because, yes, wrinkles and as biology takes. To say within thine own deep sunken eyes were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. So yeah, we're an all... And I almost think that it is, unless you have that child, you have that shame and, like, thriftless. Like I have an idea of, but splendid display weed garment. Let me see if. Oh, well, I wasn't going. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use? Okay, so it okay, so if we go into this realm, and we shall because we're all adults here. So we're in all the whole thing allegory or metaphor of a field perhaps plowed yet not sown. So we're in all eating shame, thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use? This says that use would be, well, one, sexual activity, two, financial investment, as usury. So, yes, plowing the field without sowing. If thou couldst answer, this fair child of mine that I have seeded shall some my count make my old excuse. His beauty is your succession. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm, your blood still flows in that child's veins when yours is cold because thou art dead. So, there, metaphor. To be crude, crass, but that's why it's so great, because you can discuss these sorts of topics without it coming off as crude or crass because of the flowery, sugary wording. So we'll go on to number 3. Look in thy glass and tell the face thou viewest. Now is the time that face should form another, whose fresh repair, if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world, unbless some mother. For where is she so fair, whose uneared womb disdains the tillage of thy husbandry? Or who is he so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop posterity? Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. But if thou live remembered not to be, die single, and thine image dies with thee. Oh, it's so beautiful. So look in the mirror and tell yourself, now's the time to make another. Whose fresh repair, if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world. So, words are hard tonight. You're, again, like taking from or depriving the world, and unbless some mother, some woman who could have had your child as well. For where she is so fair, whose uneared womb, again, trusty, dusty book, uneared womb. Oh, uneared like corn. Unplowed, yeah. Being a lady whose disdains the tillage of thy husbandry, or who is he so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop posterity. So yes, with self-love so much, who is he so fond will be the tomb of his self-love to stop posterity. Loving self too much kills the posterity, kind of, in a way, because it is you, and it gets to that in the end. So you are the reflection of your mother. She in thee calls back her youthfulness, her prime. So through your own age, you'll see, despite the wrinkles, your own prime in the child. But if thou live remembered not to be, you die single, and your image dies with you. So having the children, you continue on in them. Otherwise, you die single, and your own image dies as well. And in loving the self, would you not then want to continue it? It's all perspective. Number 4. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequest gives nothing, but doth lend, and being frank, she lends to those are free. Then, beauteous niggard, why dost thou abuse the bounteous largesse given thee to give? Profitless usurer, why dost thou use so great a sum of sums, yet can't not live? Yet canst not live. For having traffic with thyself alone, thou of thyself thy sweet self doth deceive. Then how, when nature calls thee to be gone, what acceptable audit canst thou leave? Why unused beauty must be tombed with thee, which used lives thy executor to be? So this one is less field planting and more money making. So unthrifty loveliness. So spending your youth, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Which again could be taken as plowing the field without seeding it, sowing it. Nature's bequest gives nothing. So this one was a little bit more difficult for me. Hang on. Nature's bequest, it is bequested to you, gives nothing. So again, that what is given to you and not put back into it. Oh, it's gives nothing, but it lends it. And if you don't, yeah, so like with interest, your children are interest. And being frank, she lends to those are free, but doth lend, she lends to those are free. Yeah, she lends freely. Then, beauteous niggard, why dost thou abuse? Yes, the bounteous largesse given thee to give. Profitless usurer, why dost, so yes, basically have children, do not just sleep around. So great a sum of sums, yet canst not live. Why dost thou use so great a sum of sums, yet canst not live? For having traffic with thyself alone can be taken a certain way. Thou of thyself, thy sweet self, doth deceive. Then how, when nature calls thee to be gone, when you die, what acceptable audit canst thou leave? Thy unused beauty must be tombed with thee. It dies with you, which used lives thy executor to be. Oh, okay, so the unused beauty dies with you, but when used, the child lives thy executor to be. Boom, nailed it. Number 5. And I do like I believe they're all going to be kind of the same but all done differently, which that's why it's so interesting is how many different ways it can be done, the same idea, and each of them has their own imagery, their own beauty, and so many different words, and they're all sonnets, so they have their specific rhythm and rhymes that they all have to get in there. So anyway, number 5. Those hours that with gentle work did frame the lovely gaze where every eye doth dwell, will play the tyrants to the very same, and that unfair which fairly doth excel. For never resting time leads summer on to hideous winter, and confounds him there, sap checked with frost, and lusty leaves quite gone, beauty o'ersnowed, and bareness everywhere. Then, were not summer's distillation left, a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass, beauty's effect with beauty were bereft. Nor it, nor no remembrance what it was. But flowers distilled, though they with winter meet, least but their show, their substance still lives sweet. This, it almost seems like just an exercise of how many different poems of the same type can I write about the same thing in the same format, because it follows the same format, but yet they're each different. So, those hours that with gentle work did frame the lovely gaze where every eye doth dwell. So, the work that you put into your own beauty will play the tyrants to the very same. Okay. Will come back to bite you. And that unfair which fairly doth excel. I mean, could that be? Okay, hang on. Those hours that with gentle work did frame the lovely gaze, where every eye doth dwell, will play the tyrants the very same, and that unfair which fairly doth excel. It almost seems like, again, so as much beauty as you have, if you don't pass it on, those that say, not objectively, but like in a different sense, are less fair, less beauteous, but still pass that on, their children they excel more than the beauteous who don't, potentially. For never resting time leads summer on, summer goes on, life goes on to hideous winter, old age confounds him there. Sap checked with frost, lusty leaves quite gone. So, unable to then do the thing. Beauty or snowed, no longer beauteous, bareness everywhere. Then we're not summer's distillation left, a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass that can be taken a certain way, which I will check the trusty dusty book because I am curious. Which one are we on? 5. Trusty dusty book. Distillation essence of flowers distilled into perfume with, and that it just skips over that. So we'll just move on. Bareness everywhere. Then we're not liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass. Then we're not summer's distillation left, a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass. Oh, so like the perfume. So this. Oh yeah. So the sweetness. So we're not summer's okay. So summer's distillation left, where you take what you have in summer, you distill it down, you can it, you do any of those types of things to preserve it. Liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass, the perfume, beauty's effect with beauty were bereft. So without that, it's all gone anyway. Nor it nor no remembrance what it was. But flowers distilled, though they with winter meet, lease but their show. Oh yes, so they don't have their show, like what they look like, but their substance still lives on. Oh, that's lovely. I love that. Okay. Good to know. I'm glad I checked the trusty dusty book. All right. Number 6. Then let not winter's ragged hand deface in thee thy summer, ere thou be distilled. Make sweet some phial, treasure thou some place with beauty's treasure, ere it be self-killed. That use is not forbidden usury, which happies those that pay the willing loan. That's for thyself to breed another thee, or 10 times happier be it 10 for 1. 10 times thyself were happier than thou art, if 10 of thine 10 times refigured thee. Then what could death do if thou shouldst depart, leaving thee living in posterity? Be not self-willed, for thou art much too fair to be death's conquest and make worms thine heir. Ooh, I love the worm imagery. A little twisted. Then let not winter's ragged hand deface in thee thy summer, ere thou be distilled. So don't let age deface your youth before you have been distilled, had that preservation in the child. Make sweet some phial, the little glass of perfume. Treasure thou some place with beauty's treasure, ere it be self-killed by not preserving it. That use is not forbidden usury, which happies those that pay the willing loan. Children happy you because preservation. That's for thyself to breed another thee, to make another you, or 10 times happier, be it 10 for 1. Have 10 kids. 10 times thyself were happier than thou art. Oh, so 10 of you is happier than even you are. If 10 of thine 10 times refigured thee. So if each of those had 10 more, that's 10 times the happiness. Then what could death do if thou shouldst depart? What's death going to do once you die? Leaving thee living in posterity, because you're technically still there within your children and your grandchildren and beyond. Be not self-willed, for thou art much too fair. You're too fair, too beauteous, too great to be death's conquest and make worms thine heir. So without the children, all that you have left, all that is your heir, is the worms that feed upon you. Oh, excellent. And it's interesting, all the different perspectives of it, all of the different analogies and metaphors. Number 7. Lo, in the Orient, when the gracious light lifts up his burning head, each under eye doth homage to his new appearing sight, serving with looks his sacred majesty. And having climbed the steep up heavenly hill, resembling strong youth in his middle age, yet mortal looks adore his beauty still, attending on his golden pilgrimage. But when from highmost pitch, with weary car, like feeble age he reeleth from the day, the eyes, foreduteous, now converted are from his low tract, and look another way. So thou, thyself outgoing in thy noon, unlooked on diest, unless thou get a son. One of those near rhymes. Okay, so lo in the Orient, when the gracious light lifts up his burning head, each under eye doth homage to his new appearing sight. serving with looks his sacred majesty. Oh, when the sun, it's the sun, lo, I think, in the orient, when the gracious light lifts up his burning head, each under eye doth homage to his new appearing sight. Each shadow doth homage to his new appearing sight. Yes, okay. Serving with looks his sacred majesty, creation, and having climbed the steep up heavenly hill, resembling strong youth in his middle age. Yet mortal looks adore, so humans adore the sun's beauty, still attending on his golden pilgrimage. So he continues, but when from yes, okay. So but when from highmost pitch, noon, with weary car like feeble age, he reeleth from the day sunset, the eyes foreduteous now converted are. So the eyes before bright, attentive, now converted are from his low tract and look a different way. So in so you, a human, thyself outgoing in thy noon, so your middle age, unlooked on, diest, unless thou get a son. So yes, the whole life as a day, your noon. At that point, your prime. At that, go and make sure you're leaving something. But the one thing, so thou thyself outgoing in thy noon, unlooked on, diest. So, oh, and that's something too that I was going to kind of get into a little bit in the first one, but it was going to be a little bit much. And now I've forgotten it. Unlooked on. Okay, so the sun, it rises, it's bright, it's strong, and at noon, it's in its prime, it's brightest, and then it goes down, and then it's done. The whole sort of if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? So the observation that consciousness of its being there, the mortal looks adore his beauty. It's adored, it's looked upon, it's aware, its beauty been made has been made aware of. Yes, I think that's so the same thing if it's like your child looking upon you and being I think maybe perhaps it's that consciousness that if you don't leave something to be remembered by, were you really there, sort of thing. And the only way that really truly continues is that blood passed on. Because works and idea, like there's the you can live on in name, but at some point names get forgotten and very few people are actually remembered by name. Works might not have the name with it, even though it goes on. And I mean, I guess the same thing can be said of having children and eventually, well, ancestral. But anyway, so yes, that's that one. That was a little bit less solid, I think. But if I had a little more time, I could probably solidify it a little better. Oh, and now music. Excellent. So, number 8. Music to hear, why hearest thou music sadly? Sweets with sweets war not, joy delights in joy. Why lovest thou that which thou receivest not gladly, or else receivest with pleasure thine annoy? If the true concord of well-tuned sounds by unions married do offend thine ear, they do but sweetly chide thee, who confounds in singleness the parts that thou shouldst bear. Mark how one string, sweet husband to another, strikes each in each by mutual ordering, resembling sire and child and happy mother, who all in one pleasing note do sing, whose speechless song, being many, seeming one, sings this to thee, thou single wilt prove none. All right. Music to hear, why hearest thou music sadly? Why do you hear the music sadly? Sweets with sweets war not, joy delights in joy. Sweets go together, joy delights in itself, and in other joys. Why lovest thou that which thou receivest? Why do you love what you receive unhappily? Okay. Or else receivest with pleasure thine annoy. Or why are you happy with what annoys you? If the true concord of well-tuned sounds Okay, I'm gonna actually look at this one because I'm not quite getting it. You who are music to hear, thine annoy what troubles or bores you. Yes, of course. Concord is harmony. Agreement of sounds and. Well, that's what I was gonna say anyway. By unions married, and it's not giving me the overall. Hang on. Music to hear, why hearest thou music sadly? Sweets with sweets war not, joy delights in joy. Why lovest thou that which thou receivest not gladly, or else receivest with pleasure thine annoy? If the true harmony of well tuned sounds by unions married do offend thine ear. Oh, okay, so basically, marriage and procreation should be a sweet sound. So the whole rejection of the same would be that hearing the music sadly, not delighting in it. Um, you love. Yes, kind of. Sure, we'll just go on. By unions married do offend thine ear. They do but sweetly chide thee, who confounds in singleness the parts that thou shouldst bear. Okay, yes. So the the sounds that you find sad or annoying, which are the marriage, the procreation, they sweetly chide thee, nudge who you who are in singleness, kind of rejecting what the part you are meant to play in that music. And then it goes into like the family dynamic. Mark how one string, sweet husband to another, strikes each and each by mutual ordering the chord, and then that itself, that chord resembling sire and child and happy mother, um, is that note, who all in one pleasing note do sing. Speechless song, being many, there are many, they seem one, sings this to thee, thou single wilt prove none. In being single, you'll prove no music. I mean, you can play one note at a time, but we'll keep with the metaphor. So number 9. So we had fields, we had preserves, we had usury and music and the sun. Excellent. Number 9. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye that thou consumest thyself in single life? Ah, if thou. Sorry, I just got thirsty. Where did I put it? Okay. Number 9. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye that thou consumest thyself in single life? Ah, if thou issueless shalt hap to die, the world will wail thee like a makeless wife. The world will be thy widow and still weep that thou no form of thee hast left behind. When every private widow well may keep by children's eyes her husband's shape in mind. Look, what an unthrift in the world doth spend, shifts but his place, for still the world enjoys it. But beauty's waste hath in the world an end, and kept unused, the user so destroys it. No love toward others in that bosom sits, that on himself such murderous shame commits. Ooh, that one got a little aggressive there at the end. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye that thou consumest thyself in single life, consuming yourself with a single life? Ah, if thou issueless, childless, shalt happen to die, the world will wail thee, the world will weep like a makeless wife, and I assume a childless wife. The world will be thy widow, and still weep, that thou no form, no child of thee hast left behind, when every private widow well may keep. So, yes, by children's eyes, her husband's shape in mind. So, a widow with her children still is able to keep her husband's shape, her husband's memory with her. Look, what is it? I just want to go back to the beginning quick. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye? Oh. So it could be at the beginning that is it for fear? Like, is it because of fear? Oh. Okay. Do you fear dying before to wet a widow's eye to pass on before your wife? And that's why consuming self with a single life. Is it for fear to wet a widow's eye, that thou consumest thyself in single life. I think that's a likely interpretation. And then going back, children's eyes. So yeah, so then it would say, if indeed that did happen, your widow can keep you in mind and be, I guess, less sad with children. So at least have children. Look, what an unthrift in the world doth spend, shifts but his place, for still the world enjoys it. So yeah, so it doesn't make anything and just moves within it. But beauty's waste hath in the world an end, but kept unused, the user so destroys it. At some point, what's been given comes to an end unless passed on. No love toward others in that bosom sits, that on himself such murderous shame commits. So really, yeah, getting aggressive in there. That you have no love for others if you commit that self-murderous act that of not passing the self on. So it is kind of a big arc within it, is that self-love is greatest in passing it on. So number 10. Oh, I'm thirstier now than when just reading through Poe. There's more. Is it cadence? For shame! Deny that thou bearest love to any, who for thyself art so unprovident. Grant, if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many, but that thou none lovest is most evident. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate, that 'gainst thyself thou stick'st not to conspire, seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate, which to repair should be thy chief desire. O change thy thought, that I may change my mind. Shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love? Be as thy presence is, gracious and kind, or to thyself at least kind-hearted prove. Make thee another self for love of me, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. Awesome. Excellent. I'm having a great time reading through them. Right now, the first 17, I guess, are all the same sort of message, but it is. I love how it's like the same basic structure, but it's all different. And it's so exciting, and I'm enjoying it. But, so, again, disclaimer. I am an enthusiast, not necessarily knowledgeable. So I'm just basically taking it as any sort of analyzing it just in general. So if you have thoughts other than what I say or consider as the analysis of it, go for it. Because I got my trusty dusty book over here, but I don't know, it's not that helpful. So I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But I hope it's all right. I think I'm doing pretty well with analyzing it. So we'll see about this one. So the number 10. So for shame, deny that thou bearest love to any. So if in denying that you bear love to anyone else, who for thyself art so unprovident. I need to make sure I'm reading that correctly. So sometimes that trusty dusty book is good. Okay. Did you read it for school or just on your own? Unprovident, number 10. Be ashamed of yourself. For shame, deny that thou bearest love to any. Oh, okay, so going back up again to, so 9, so 10. So this is making it seem like you're denying that you bear love to, okay. Who for thyself art so unprovident, grant if thou wilt, thou art beloved of many, but that thou none lovest is most evident. Okay, so according to that and kind of rereading it, in being shameful of yourself and doubting yourself you deny that you love someone who for you might love, and you should grant, if you can, that you are beloved of many, but instead you believe that no one loves you, most evidently. Okay. Oh, okay. Right, yes, yes. I do. I know some of that stuff. I'm not versed in the old English pronunciations and therefore cannot switch that on. Like there was one right up here where it was like noon and sun, which I guess took to be a near rhyme rather than. But again, it could have been an old English pronunciation, but I wouldn't know whether it would be noon would be none or sun would be soon. Um, but yeah, so I am, and I do. I getting back into this sort of stuff. I do love the rhymes and the cadence and actual decent poetry because a lot of it is. It's the same with like a lot of artistic endeavors. It's everything is so saturated now with people trying to do it, but it doesn't quite get there, and then everything is considered art, which makes nothing art. So yes, so I this stuff's fun. This stuff is quite fun for me, and I'm actually happy that I'm remembering quite a bit of it. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, because I was like, what have I gotten myself into? I haven't done the Shakespearean for a while, but it's going okay, I think. So, I mean, if there's any questions you have, I can try to help out. Sun was a bit like soon. Yeah. And they also could have just adjusted the pronunciation in general, not necessarily having the old English uh, base pronunciation. Like they could have just adjusted it in general just for that one rhyme. Yeah, so yeah, that stuff's fun. It's like weaving, like creating something physical, but with words. So yes, grant if thou wilt, for thou art so possessed with murderous hate. So yes, the that murderous hate being killing yourself by not passing yourself on, that gainst thyself thou stickst not to conspire. For thou art so possessed with murderous hate, that gainst thyself thou stickst not to conspire. Some of it's still a bit iffy. That gainst you're possessed with murderous hate for not procreating, that gainst thyself thou stickst not to conspire. See, that one's kind of weird because it would seem that because it's against you're conspiring against yourself in deciding not to have children, but it doesn't quite seem like that is the translation of that line, but I think it's the idea. So we'll move on. Seeking that beauteous roof to ruinate. So you are the beauteous roof, which to repair by having children should be thy chief desire. Oh, change thy thought, change your mind, or that I may change my mind about you, shall hate be fairer lodged than gentle love. Oh, okay. So, yes, the roof being, I assume, probably the head, which is the place for beauty, which then wrinkles in old age, but also the housing for your murderous hate of deciding to stay single and not have children, rather than gentle love with taking, getting married and having children. Be as thy presence is. Oh, be as your presence is gracious and kind, so be that. Or to thyself at least, kind hearted prove, at least be kind to yourself, by making yourself another self, for love of me, being the author, that beauty still may live in thine or thee. Yes. And that was so I did do this one right at the very beginning. Or not at the very beginning, but like right before this. And that's what I have been doing is reading the whole thing. And then And then, yes, the analysis. But it is. I am still a little bit rusty. So getting through, I do. I get a little bit of an overview and somewhat of an idea of it, but it is. It's sometimes I do miss things. So yes, so that one was metaphorically the house, the physical, head, the face, the beauty, as the house with your roof, lodging hate rather than love, and being ruined rather than being repaired by having the children. So yes, they're all of them. All of them are about having the children. Oh no, I wanted to do it like this. Mew. Beautiful. All right. So we shall start number 11, and I shall read it first, and then I shall analyze. All right. Okay. As fast as thou shalt wane, so fast thou growest in one of thine, from that which thou departest, and that fresh blood which youngly thou bestowest. Thou mayest call thine when thou from youth convertest. Herein lives wisdom, beauty, and increase. Without this, folly, age, and cold decay. If all were minded so, the times should cease, and 80 years would make the world away. Yet those whom nature hath not made for store, harsh, featureless, and rude, barrenly perish. Look, whom she best endowed, she gave thee more, which bounteous gift thou shouldst in bounty cherish. She carved thee for her seal, and meant thereby thou shouldst print more, nor let that copy die. And now we're in print. I love that. Yeah, I think when I was at least getting some information about it, I think it said through 17, but that could have been just the first few, and he could have done more than that. So we'll see. I'll see if we can analyze it correctly and see where it stops. So, number 11, as fast as thou shalt wane, shalt die, so fast thou growest in one of thine. So fast would you then grow in one of your children. Print more of yourself. Yes, exactly. Copies. You must make copies. From that, so fast thou growest in one of thine, from that which thou departest, you shall leave behind the one of yours, which you shall then depart from. And that fresh blood, which youngly thou bestowest in your young years, thou mayest call thine, it is yours, when thou from youth convertest, get old from youth. Herein lives the wisdom, beauty, and increase in the children. Without this, folly, age, and cold decay. If all were minded so, the folly, age, and cold decay, the times should cease, because there would be no more. And 60 years would make the world away. So yes, in 60 years, everyone would die, at least in that time. Let those whom nature hath not made for store. We were not made to be preserved, like actually preserved, like canned or like made into perfume. Harsh, featureless, and rude, barrenly perish. Wait, hang on. Let those whom nature hath not made for store. Oh, harsh, featureless, and rude, barrenly perish. So let those who are not meant to pass themselves on, who are harsh and featureless and rude, let them perish without passing anything on. But look, whom she best endowed, she gave thee more, speaking to the reader or just some subject, which bounteous gift thou shouldst in bounty cherish. So the bounteous gift given to thee, you should, in bounty, passing on, you should cherish. She carved you for her seal, her seal to seal herself in nature, continuation, and meant thereby, thou shouldst print more, nor let that copy die, and yes to the Darwinism. Absolutely. Yep. Oh, and that's the thing too, is when was Darwin around? He was later, yeah. I'm actually very bad temporally. I really do need to actually go through things. And that's what I figured. I just needed to make sure. So yeah, so it's interesting when you get those concepts in different time periods, in different places. Makes you consider it a little bit. So yes, So that was number 11. On to number 12. And now we got clocks. When I do count the clock that tells the time, and see the brave day sunk in hideous night, when I behold the violet past prime, and sable curls all silvered or with white, when lofty trees I see barren of leaves, which erst from heat did canopy the herd, and summer's green all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier with white and bristly beard, then of thy beauty do I question make, that thou among the wastes of time must go, since sweets and beauties do themselves forsake, and die as fast as they see others grow, and nothing gainst time's scythe can make defense, save breed to brave him when he takes thee hence. Don't reproduce, they leave the world for bad. Yes, exactly. So to put that into modern terms, if you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy, that's a big portion of that. Uh, and it is that's basically what it says is there's the people who plan and plan and plan and plan and plan for the right time that eventually just end up not having kids. And then there's people who just go ahead and, yeah, yep. Go ahead and have as many kids as possible and don't necessarily take care of them. So, yeah, so it is. It's that balance. It's that this and that and here and there sort of thing. So, yeah. So it is. It's having that from Shakespeare's time, and then you got Darwin's time, and then you got like even modern, more modern. It's been a while, I guess. Takes on that same concept. All right. So when I do count the clock that tells the time, so life, and see the brave day sunk in hideous night, old age, when I behold the violet past prime, so same imagery of the violet being old and shriveled, sable curls, black hair, all silvered or with white, so the white or silver of age. When lofty trees I see barren of leaves, so older people. So yes, the elderly without the children, which erst from heat did canopy the herd. I have to make sure that erst number 12. Formerly, okay, which formerly from heat did canopy the herd. Oh, yes. So the leaves, the barren of leaves, which is the lack of children, which used to, from heat or like death, canopy the herd. Oh, wait, hang on. And summer's green all girded up in sheaves. So I was thinking it was which formerly. So having the children prevents the death of all humanity in general, like the one before. And then in summer's green, all girded up in sheaves, there's no more summer's green because it's all sheaved. There's the lodge stakes in the future. Yes, exactly. And summer's green, all girded up in sheaves, borne on the bier, the funeral pyre with white and bristly beard. Then of thy beauty do I question make. Like, what was the point of the beauty if it's not passed on? That thou among the wastes of time must go. You're wasted of time with nothing to show for it, since sweets and beauties do themselves forsake, and beauties do themselves forsake through old age, and die as fast as they see others grow with children. and nothing against time's scythe can make defense. So nothing can escape basically the reaper except through having the children to brave him when he takes the hence, when he takes the death. Yeah. It is. It's all basically the same message, but just in different ways. And it's fun to see all the different ways that it can be, because it's the same basic thing. Because it's like saying, so you want to be single and everything, this is why it's bad and this is what you should be doing. And at the end, like, you're gonna die unless you're going you're going to be like dead entirely unless you boom pass it on. But yet it is. It's said in all sorts of different ways with all sorts of different imagery of it. And it's great. And I love it. Yes. Yep. And it will. I have at least one that I had memorized, perhaps two. And yeah, they're very fun. But I like having things from different angles. So it I don't know. This is fun for me, even though it is like the same. It's I guess you could say it's almost a little bit like Poe, where there is a lot of the same ish, but also different and also surprising in different ways. So I love that. So number 13. Oh, that you were yourself, but love you are no longer yours, then you yourself here live. Against this coming end you should prepare, and your sweet semblance to some other give. So should that beauty which you hold in lease find no determination. Then you were yourself again after yourself's decease, when your sweet issue your sweet form should bear. Who let so fair a house fall to decay, which husbandry in honor might uphold, against the stormy gusts of winter's day and barren rage of death's eternal cold. Oh, none but unthrifts. Dear my love, you know, you had a father. Let your son say so. Oh, I don't know. There's some portions of that just kind of punch, and I love it. Okay, so starting from the beginning. Oh, that you were yourself, but love you are no longer yours, then you yourself here live. So you are not your own. You have, to some degree, you have a duty to where you live and what has been given to you. Yes, yes. It was really good. I felt it. It was really good. So yes, against this coming end you should prepare. So prepare against your death, by having the children, and your sweet semblance, yourself, not just physically, but just in general, to some other give. So should that beauty which you hold in lease, so it's only been given to you for a short time, find no determination. So 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 find no end. Then you were yourself again, so you become yourself after you die, when your sweet issue, what you have put into some other form of the child, sweet form of the child, should bear. Who lets so fair a house? And again, it's so like like there's some aggression in it, but there's also that you get that feeling of not desperation necessarily, but it's complimenting. It's saying there's so much good in you. You need to. It's like it's your duty to pass that on, and it's not even just your duty, but just because, again. So who lets so fair a house fall to decay? Like saying to the listener, the reader, whatever, you're so fair. Why would you let that go? Which husbandry in honor might uphold. So yes, I guess there is the honor. So passing that on would uphold that house against the stormy gusts of winter's day, so old age, and barren rage of death's eternal cold. Oh, none but what is it? Unthrifts. Oh, non-thrifty people. What's the word for non-thrifty people? Uh, Spendthrifts. No. Or is that completely opposite? Anyway. So yes, none but the spenders. Dear my love, you know. And that's the thing too. It's like dear and my love. It's that tough love. That's what it is. It's the tough love sort of thing. Saying like I care about you, and I care about like you living on and passing it on. You had a father, let your son say so. Oh, it is. It's so good. And it just hits. And it is. It's one of those things where like you could put that on a bumper sticker. So Shakespearean bumper stickers coming to you at a gas station or something. I don't know. So yes, that was good. They're all good. Number 14. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet methinks I have astronomy, but not to tell of good or evil luck, of plagues, of dearths, or seasons' quality. Nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain, and wind, or say, with princes if it shall go well, by oft predict that I in heaven find. But from thine eyes my knowledge I derive, and constant stars, in them I read such art, as truth and beauty shall together thrive, if from thyself to store thou wouldst convert, or else of thee this I prognosticate, thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. Interesting. So we got into a little bit of astrology. Not from the stars do I. That's interesting that it's a question. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck. So, okay, sure. I'm going to come back to that. And yet methinks I have astronomy, but not. So I have. So, writer saying I have some form of that. I don't want to say fortune telling, but that sort of a thing that I can't think of what it's called right now. But not to tell of is my judgment not from the star. Ooh. Yes. Excellent. Thank you. That's perfect. Yeah. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck. Interesting. I love that very much. Excellent. 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 Yes. Right. Oh, I love that. I love that. See, that's why it's good to have other perspectives. But yeah, my book's not helping. You're being very helpful, so I'm glad about that. So, and yet methinks I have astronomy, but not to tell of good or evil luck, so like the fortune telling of plagues of dearths or seasons quality, nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain, and wind, or say with princes if it shall go well, by oft predict that I in heaven find. So yeah, so that whole thing is just basically, I don't use this judgment for any of that sort of thing, the fortune telling, but from your eyes, my knowledge I derive, I look at you, and your eyes which are constant stars, in them I read such art. As truth and beauty shall together thrive, if from thyself to store, having a child, thou wouldst convert. I think, wouldst convert thy, again, that idea or that plan for remaining single and not having children, or else of thee I prognosticate, thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. So your own end is the doom and date, ending date with your own death date of the truth and beauty within yourself. Yes? Yes? Potentially. So that was number 14. And number 15. When I consider everything that grows holds in perfection but a little moment, that this huge state presenteth not, but shows whereon the stars in secret influence comment. When I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked even by the selfsame sky, vaunt in their youthful sap at height decrease, and wear their brave state out of memory, then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you most rich in youth before my sight, where wasteful time debateth with decay, to change your day of youth to sullen night, and all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. Okay. Tells him that if he doesn't have kids, it's his end. Ooh, yes, yes. Excellent. Yes, I like that. Very excellent. Yes. Okay. When I consider everything that grows holds in perfection but a little moment. So everything, every form of life, at least that grows, is perfect but for a little moment, is in its prime but for a little while. That this huge state existence presents nothing but shows whereon the stars in secret influence comment. That there is huge state presenteth not something about like as numerous as the stars sort of thing. But also, hang on. That this huge state existence presents nothing. Oh, is it another one of those things with observation? But shows whereon the stars in secret influence comment. So like, I guess from a first glance, yes, I was thinking possibly that, but also in some of the earlier ones, it was also like if a tree falls in the forest, can you hear it sort of a situation where it needs to be, ooh, fate is written in the stars. I like that as well. Yes. So perhaps my first thought is not quite correct. But yeah, so There was some at the beginning where it's uh what's the point if it's not observed, if it's not conscious? Um so like even if it's simply the stars with their secret influence comment, but I like yours. Yours is a lot better. Fate is written in the stars. Excellent. Perfect. Got that one down. When I perceive that men as plants increase, lots of children, cheered and checked even by the selfsame sky. So, yes, stars excited about it, existence excited about it. Fate is good. Vaunt in their youthful sap at height decrease, oh no, and wear their brave state out of memory. So, in their youth and height, they then decrease and then become not. Then the conceit of this inconstant stay, uh, this short period of time, sets you most rich in youth. Oh, yes, so then the conceit of this inconstant stay sets you most rich in youth before my sight. So again, speaking to the reader, um, you are you are rich in youth right now, where wasteful time debateth with decay. Eventually, you will not be such. To change your day of youth to sullen night, you will then become old and yes, and then die. And all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you, I engraft you new. And all in war with time for love of you, as he takes from you death, I engraft you new. So, saying, this is how, again, you continue. Perhaps, potentially? Sure. Excellent. Number 16. And I'll make sure that I'm supposed to go up on this one. Yes. Okay. But wherefore do not you. Oh, wait, hang on. Engraft. Same plant analogy. Oh, excellent. Yes, yes, yes. And that's the thing too, is I'm not as versed in as many topics as this goes over, which is something as writer, like, is a sort of writing inspiration sort of for me to get into all of those, because like with Poe and then like with this, there's so many different topics that are gone over in such depth that it knowing all of the like physical existent not existential, but having a good grasp on life itself in a lot of different aspects is very informative of writing, even if it's not just about that stuff. If I mean, it's not a pretty way of putting it, but it is. It's the best writing comes from reality and like consideration of truths. So, yeah. So, I do. I want to get into more of that and understand more of that. So, okay, excellent. Words are a little bit hard tonight, so I'm glad I can get my point across. So, number 16. But wherefore do not you a mightier way make war upon this bloody tyrant time, and fortify yourself in your decay with means more blessed than my barren rhyme? Now stand you on the top of happy hours, and many maiden gardens yet unset, with virtuous wish would bear you living flowers, much liker than your painted counterfeit. So should the lines of life that life repair, which this time's pencil or my pupil pen, neither in inward worth nor outward fair, can make you live yourself in eyes of men. To give away yourself keeps yourself still, and you must live, drawn by your own sweet skill. And now we're into drawing. Oh, I love it very much. It almost seems like a. Hang on. I mean, I think I said this earlier. It almost seems like a writing exercise of how many different ways can I say the same exact thing with how many different metaphors and ways of like if it was like a college assignment or a high school assignment. So yeah, I'm sure they have those. All right, but why do not you a mightier way make war upon this bloody tyrant time? So instead of whatever else you're doing, um, make a mightier defense against time, fortifying yourself from your old age and death with means more blessed than my barren rhyme. I love it when it kind of comes back on itself. My own barren rhyme. My rhymes don't actually bear anything, but you could, blessedly. Now stand you on the top of happy hours, you're in your prime, and many maiden gardens yet unset, you have a lot of women you can choose from, with virtuous wish would bear you living flowers, and they would do so, much liker than your painted counterfeit. So, yes, the art. So, the child would look a lot more like you than your own painting or depiction of yourself, and the painting is itself a counterfeit rather than the real deal. So should the lines of life that life repair. So instead of your lines, just your lines on the paper, lines of life would create that and repair you, which this time's pencil or my pupil pen, neither in inward worth nor outward fair, can make you live yourself in eyes of men. So yes, so time's pencil or the writing or your own like artistic pencil pen can create, okay, yes, can make you yourself continue living in the eyes of men. And I'll get back to that too. To give away yourself, to give yourself to someone else, as well as the physical aspect of it, also keeps you and continues you on. You must live drawn by your own sweet skill. Metaphor. Can make you live yourself. Okay, so where was I going with that? Can make you live yourself. Oh, so another one was there's different ways that you can continue on, like immortalize yourself is children legacy, like your name living on by doing deeds, but at some point the name could get tarnished or forgotten or something like that, or works is another one, but the name does not always live on, which depending on, so like that can make you live yourself in eyes of men. You are not yourself continuing to live, it is your work rather than you yourself, which would live on in the child. So yes, so going back to that. Yes, and it but it also, again, like going to the, like again, Shakespeare lives on in his verse. Van Gogh lives on in his painting. No, because didn't he have Hamnet? I thought that was a thing. I want to say Hamnet was a child. But I can't remember if he got ill and died young or just got ill, but I thought he had other children too. I'm not sure. I'm an, again, enthusiast, not an expert. But I do want to say Hamnet was a thing. Yeah. Yes, excellent. Okay. So he did his duty. But again, so that's a thing where, like, again, Shakespeare again lives on, Van Gogh lives on in their works, but do they really? Basically in name only, rather than the blood that flows through the veins sort of thing. So yeah, so as much as you put into your verses, as much as you put into your painting, that is what lives on. You are not yourself living on within that. So yeah. Number 17. Who will believe my verse in time to come, if it were filled with your most high deserts? Though yet heaven knows it is but as a tomb, which hides your life and shows not half your parts. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say this poet lies. Such heavenly touches ne'er touched earthly faces. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, be scorned like old men of less truth than tongue, and your true rights be termed a poet's rage, and stretched meter of an antique song. But were some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice, in it and in my rhyme. Okay, so now the verse. Who will believe my verse in time to come, if it were filled with your most high deserts? So who would believe what I have to say about you, because it's so hot? I say the highest of things about you. Though yet heaven knows, it is but as a tomb my verse entombs you, which hides your life and shows not half your parts. There's so much more to you than what I can get into my own verse. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say this poet lies. I could be exact in describing you to the detail, but at some point someone would say um, that would interpret differently, and that's the thing too. Why I like to analyze my own things, just because there are when you don't have the author's actual perspective of it, any interpretation is based on opinion and perspective. So yeah, so at some point, even this verse that entombs you, keeps you continuing on in a way, will be tarnished by a differing age. Such heavenly touches ne'er touched earthly faces. Oh yes, this poet lies. That such aspects, characteristics have never been on anyone. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, right there. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Be scorned like old men of less truth than tongue. Like old men of less truth than tongue. So like so should my papers, what I write about you, yellowed with their age, be scorned like old men who talk a lot but don't say a lot of truth, and your true rights be termed a poet's rage. What your the rights, your characteristics, the truth of you would be termed like a poet's, I guess not necessarily like rage, but poet's fantastical putting melodrama, the dramatic interpretation of the actual, and stretched meter of an antique song. But were some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice, in it and in my rhyme. So if you had a child, though, you would then live twice, in the child as well as in the rhyme, because then there is a child that lives afterward that can have that semblance and provide the proof for the rhyme. Okay, yes, that is what I thought. Hamnet died at 11. His daughters had kids, but Judith's all died before her. Susanna only had one, Elizabeth, which was Shakespeare's last descendant. Oh, that is ironic. They tried, I guess. But yeah, I mean, and at the time, like it is, you have as many kids as possible because you're gonna lose some. So, yeah. And yeah, so he at least tried to follow his own advice, I guess. And I think I'm going to stop there just because I want to, well, this is the one that I actually, because Bach had 20, wait. So again, I know bits and pieces. Well, okay. So I had this one memorized. This is the one that I had memorized. I could go ahead and we could end on this one. With that we can do that. We can do that. We can do that. Okay. I wasn't prepared. All right. Are we ready for this one? I'm ready. Okay. Number 18. I'll try and do it justice. But not too much. Okay, hang on. Sorry, now I'm all excited about it. Okay. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Oh, it has been a while, and that was very fun. Okay, so we'll go over it now. So hopefully I'll have a better... Actually, I don't think I really analyzed this one back when I did it. So it might be the same sort of stuttery analysis. No, this I think this one is basically just I am immortalizing you. This I'm just immortalizing you in these words. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Well, shall I? Because the day is beautiful. You are more lovely and more temperate, not too hot, not too cold, right, the perfect temperature. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. So the roughness of time shakes the buds of May, and summer doesn't last very long. At some point, or sometimes, uh, the eye of heaven, sun shines too hot, and often is his gold complexion dimmed by clouds or night, whatever, and everything fair eventually becomes unfair, less fair, declines by chance, uh, by nature's course, just as it goes, untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. Your beauty, the beauty of you right now, your eternal summer, shall not fade or lose possession of that fair that thou owest. So you won't lose possession of that fairness, which again, that thou owest, which again does go back to the language of the other ones where it's like you owe that fairness. So it might have a little bit of it in that. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. So you won't die when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So in eternal lines to time, I do believe it's well, eternal lines to time. I do think that one is kids too now. So eternal lines to time thou growest because it continues to grow in the ancestry. So yes, you know what? I think it is. I think it is. I think it is kids now. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, the genealogy, and this gives life to thee. Okay, you know what? Yes, that is. That absolutely is. Going, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it is, nor lose possession of that fair that thou owest, and eternal lines time, genealogy. Because I was thinking right at the end, so long lives this poem, and this poem gives life to you. So yeah, yes, absolutely. Pleasures are like poppy spread. You pick the flower, its bloom is shed. Is that from Shakespeare? You pick the flower, its bloom is shed. Oh, yes, though. Interesting. It could also be taken other ways as well. No rubber burn. Okay, I was kind of thinking perhaps not, but excellent, excellent. I almost. I feel like I have. I'm not absolutely sure. I might have a book of his. I'm not sure. Oh, I could be thinking of somebody else. I'm not entirely sure. But yes, excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually, I am. I'm glad because I did. Having that background of the first 17, that makes a whole lot more sense. That it is. It's that you possess that fairness, but it's also your duty bound to pass that on. So, and that's the thing. So, just kind of glancing over this one, like at the end of it, you know what? We'll just go ahead and go up to 20. That way, it's nice and, um, yeah, potentially nice and round number. So, okay. So that well, unless it's a good, you know what? Well, yes, we'll end on the famous one. And that was I'm really glad um to have done that one and had that background because it makes that memorization of it, that memory of it even richer because of that background. So, yeah. So, yes, that will be it for tonight. I was a little bit worried about doing the sonnets because it's been a while, but it is. I think it went okay. Um, Yeah. Good night, good morning, whatever it is. But and I am. I'm very glad that you suggested that because I am. I'm having a great time. I hope you did too. And thank you for coming in and giving me insight and perspective. And oh, thank you very much. Um, yeah, I used to have the theatrical enunciation and everything down, and hopefully that'll come back as I continue. So yes, so that was the first 18 of Shakespeare's sonnets. So yeah, so yes, again, thanks for coming in and hope you enjoyed and have a great whatever it's going to be for you. Good night, good morning, and hope to see you again soon. I'm not sure when next. I might do flying potentially on Thursday, but also potentially not. It depends. But otherwise, at some point, we'll get back to the Shakespeare too, and of course, more flying because I need practice. But yeah, so I am. I'm not. I don't have that great of a schedule right now because it's all up in the air. Haha, plain jokes. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that you got to come back for this one and that you're here for this one. So yes, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So yes, again, thank you again. And yeah, so bye. And I'm so out of practice with this. There it is. Okay, yes, bye.